sports fans. Thank you so much for checking out the Sportsline Podcast on CHCH and the Parrot Media platforms. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Folks, although the Blue Jays are struggling, score some runs, folks. We're going to talk some baseball from a proud national point of view. 2025, a very special year for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in beautiful St. Mary's, Ontario. Folks, with all due respect to the past, there is just no argument as this class of 2025 is the most major league we've ever seen, as 6 new inductees will be celebrated. Have a listen. Slugger José Bautista, slick left-hander Eric Bedard, Canadian Junior National Team head coach Greg Hamilton, Women's National Team star Amanda Assay, Girls Professional League Baseball League legend Arlene Noga, and without Jerry Snyder, there would have been no Montreal Expos. Let's bring in the Director of Operations at the Hall, Mr. Scott Crawford. Thank you so much for joining us, partner.
Hey, glad to be on. Let's talk some baseball.
Yeah, okay. So do we want to get our Blue Jays conversation out of the way? Let's do that first. What is happening to this team right now?
Well, they're facing some tough pitching, and they just need to get the long ball. They got a lot of sluggers on the team, and they're just not hitting the long ball yet. But you know, when Vladdy and Santander and Bichette and Springer get going with those home runs, there's going to be a ton of them. So fingers crossed, it'll be soon.
Well, the pitching has been actually, I thought, pretty good. I thought the starting pitching actually overall, except for maybe one pitcher, he's not struggling, who's been sent down, but otherwise the bats, though, they've just gone cold. I mean, I guess it is one of those things that maybe 1 or 2 players hit a couple of home runs and then everyone else will follow.
I think so. It's just one of those streaky things. You know, home runs, they're hard to hit home runs, obviously, but it's just a streaky thing. And I think once, you know, a couple of the veterans, Springer gets going and Santander, I think, you know, Vladdy, we know, is going to hit his 30. Bichette's having a great year, not hitting for power, but he's having a great year at bat. It'll come along as long as the pitching holds up and the hitters will start hitting, and you know, we'll be doing well. We're not doing too bad. I mean, we're a last place team last year, and this year we're sitting, you know, up in second place, so we're doing all right.
All right, let's talk some of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fames and what is going on in St. Mary's. And, you know, just over a month from now, I'll tell you what kind of preparations are going into the induction ceremony that's coming up. I said in maybe about 5 weeks from now.
Yeah, it's June 7th. It's the earliest we've ever had it. So it's everything's a little fast forward this spring. And we're just really like confirming all the details with the inductees and their families. I mean, we have 6 Hall of Famers this year. 3 are living and 3 have passed away. But the passed away families are coming, so it's still just as much effort to get them here and make sure they're happy and know what's going on. And it's just one of those processes that there's just things you check off your list. And about 5 weeks out, you know, we just make sure there's certain things done, and there's all the last minute stuff that comes up sort of the last few days.
You know, I've heard so many comparisons, and I know you don't like to compare. Cooperstown is its own thing, but I've heard that what you guys have in St. Mary's is equal to what you have in upstate New York, and it is just as beautiful and certainly just as eclectic in terms of all the baseball paraphernalia that you guys have, but from a Canadian perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we're the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. We obviously, Cooperstown is enormous and amazing. We've been around 50 years longer than us. They started in the 30s. We started in the 80s. We came to St. Mary's in 1994, so we've been open here 30 years. We have 32 acres of land with 4 ball fields, which is one thing that Cooperstown doesn't have. You know, so we have tons of kids playing ball. Our museum is smaller, but it's just jam-packed full of Canadian baseball history, whether you're a Canadian playing baseball around the world or players playing for the Blue Jays, Expos, or other various teams around Canada. So there's a lot to see and do here.
It's got to be very special to you that I know people, and I'm sure as you do too, that just don't miss this celebration. Like they're there year after year after year, and now trying to open it up and bring it in. And I mean, a podcast like these, opening it up to a whole new public to get down to St. Mary's.
Well, for sure. We have the same ones. Like I get a lot of the volunteers that want to help each year, and the first thing they tell me is, I recognize all these people that, you know, that bought a T-shirt the last 10 years. They're back buying another T-shirt or a bat or getting a hot dog or a beer. You know, so the crowd is very similar. It grows every year. It's the event's outside, so it's always a little weather dependent. And of course, it always depends who gets inducted, how big the crowd is. Obviously, this year is Jose. We're expecting a very large crowd. All 6 are so well deserving, but you know, if a Blue Jay player always draws more people that day.
A couple of days before the induction, I'm told that there's a big-time event happening called First Pitch, I believe. What's going on
It
there?
is. It's at Left Field Brewery, Liberty Village this year. So just west of the Rogers Center. It's a small meet and greet ticketed event. Jose is going to be there. Fergie, Larry Walker is going to be there. Greg Hamilton and a few other Hall of Famers. So it's a great event because it's a small crowd, right? Induction day, there's thousands of people here. At this event, there's going to be 150 to 200 people. So it's a great up and close event where you can talk to the inductees and say hi, get your picture and whatnot. And it's a little fundraiser we do in Toronto on the Thursday on June 5th.
Like-minded people. I think that's really the key to an event like this. Everyone is on the same page. Old stories are being told. It really is just a calabash and a coming together of so many Canadian baseball lovers.
It is, and that's what we are, and that's what our class is. It's players. It's players from a long time ago. It's executives. It's coaches. It's major league players. It's non-major league players. So our class this year is just as great as all the other years, and it has a wide variety. And it allows the general fan. I mean, most fans obviously love the players, but when you get deep into it, like you said at the beginning, Jerry Snyder, without him, who knows what would have happened with the Expos? And obviously there's millions of diehard Expo fans still out there. So it's a unique class, and it just brings all these people together in one room to talk some baseball.
At an event like that, I mean, I know the first person I would go running to, and that'd be the Cubs pitcher. That'd be Ferguson Jenkins. I mean, that's the guy I want to sit down and have a talk about baseball with. Who would you say? I mean, it doesn't have to be a popularity contest, but who are the people that people just seem to flock to year after year when they show up to events like this?
Well, you definitely hit it on the head. I mean, Fergie's the friendliest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, he'll sign his life away. He'll take pictures till he can't stand up anymore. But we have a lot of inductees like that come back. Pat Henkin's really nice. We have a VIP tent for the inductees to go have lunch with their families and whatnot. And some of the inductees won't even go in the VIP tent because they just want to hang outside with the crowd. Tom Hankey's like that as well. He just wants to visit with the fans and talk with the fans. And that's what makes our event unique, is you have access to some of these inductees are just wandering around the ball field at our tent, which again is because the induction's outside on our tent. So it's pretty neat process.
You know what is pretty neat when I think about it, especially for baseball, not so much for hockey or basketball in terms of their Hall of Fames, but for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, not all of the players are Canadian. Many of them are American. What is it like, from what you've experienced and you talking to many of the inductees, what is it like for many of these American players that are in the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame?
They're pretty excited. I mean, our percentage is sort of 70% are Canadian and 30% are sort of all-time Blue Jay Expo greats, we say. So it's mostly Canadians. But, when I called José Bautista this year, he was honored because it's the whole country honoring him. I mean, he spent a decade in Toronto playing for the Blue Jays. Obviously, Blue Jay legend, hit the home run. So he was really honored that the whole country wants to support him and his career. He bounced around a bunch of teams, but obviously he's known as a Blue Jay. And for the country to honor him, I mean, the Jays put him up on level of excellence in 2023, and now we're inducting him into the National Hall of Fame up here in Canada. So it means a lot to the non-Canadians as well.
I think one of the things that many people wonder about, especially when it comes to Hall of Fames, because every sport is individual, how does each class become elected?
Yeah, well, we have a selection committee spread across Canada that does the voting. You need 75% of the vote to basically get in. It's a process that's adjusting a little bit over the years. We're adjusting it and refining it and retooling it. But basically, there's a committee of 24 people, and they get the ballots and they vote, and then people, the majority of the voters, 75% of the vote, get into the Hall of Fame, like the Six did this year.
Let's go through some of the people that are going to be honored. And as you said, 3 posthumously, 3 that will be there. I'm sure the families will be involved as well. Amanda Assay, let's start with the ladies. Her contributions to Canadian baseball.
Yeah, I mean, she was not only the best pitcher on the Canada team, but she was the best pitcher in the world, one of the best pitchers in the world when she pitched for Canada. She started just as a young player back in the mid-2000s, right up to 2021. She played for the national team. She, of course, passed away very sadly in a ski accident in the winter of 2022, so she wasn't able to play anymore, obviously. And but she was just the best. She was like Shohei Ohtani. She could hit and she could pitch. So she was double valuable to the women's national team for so long. And there's so many people that you just hear about that talk about her that, are coming to the ceremony, her past teammates, her parents of past teammates. Her parents are coming, of course, to accept a plaque. And it's going to be an emotional one as Amanda, because she passed away at age 33, which is way, way, way too young.
That phone call must have been very emotional when you've called the family.
It was. I talked. Her mother picked up the phone, Loris, and I could barely get out the words, and she was just, George, her dad wasn't home at the time, but Loris told him, of course, right away, and it was definitely a touching phone call, one of the more so that I've done, because again, she was still playing for the team, she was still the top pitcher, and 33 is just too young to be gone.
I love that you go back to the past and that you respect the past and the history of the game. So someone like Arlene Noga deserves the love that she's going to get this summer.
Oh, definitely. If you the league All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, Arlene Noga from Saskatchewan. She played it. She did have a long career. She played about 4 years in the league. She was called the Iron Lady because she never missed a game. She was like Cal Ripken and Lou Gehrig of the All-American Girls League, which was fantastic. Once I found that out, that was her nickname. And she passed away, of course. Her daughter, is going to come to the Hall of Fame to accept her plaque. But after her playing career, she really stayed involved. She was the spokesperson for all the Canadian ladies. There's 68 Canadian ladies that played in the league, so she was sort of in charge of all them. She helped Rosie O'Donnell and Madonna learn how to play baseball for the famous movie A League of Their Own. So it's quite a unique thing. She played, and then she stayed involved, and she really helped the game prosper.
I love the name Jerry Snyder. When I saw who were inducted, going not that old, but I do remember the history of course, the Expos coming to Montreal. And as I said off the top, no Jerry Snyder, no Montreal Expos.
Yeah, he was really one of the pushers. I knew about him, of course, but I didn't know a ton about him because there wasn't a lot written about him. I mean, he was a city councilor for a long, long time, but he was in council in the 60s when they were trying to get a major league team in Montreal. And he basically made friends with the right people. He pushed the right buttons. They knew Montreal was a great city because they had the Montreal Royals that was a AAA team as well till the late 50s. And then they basically went in hard when the Major League Baseball said they wanted to expand, and Jerry led the charge, and he got Charles Bronfman on track. He got John McHale there, and the rest, you say, is history, because with McHale and Fanning and Bronfman and Jerry, they brought the Expos alive.
I mean, does it kind of bother you? Because it bothers me that there are a segment of the population out there, the Canadian population, many Canadian baseball fans that never even saw the Montreal Expos.
It is. We have a huge display with the Expos in here because we want to preserve their history because it's so fantastic. They started in '69. They left after 2004. So you're right. It's been 21 years since there was Montreal Expos baseball, and it's a sad thing. And that's why we just try to keep them alive. I mean, people buy their hats like crazy. We talk about Expos like crazy in the museum. They had so many great players. From Andre Dawson's and Gary Carter's and Larry Walker's and Vladimir Guerrero's and Tim Wallach's. I go on and on about all these great players they had. And the Expos, the Expos were the first team. So that makes them extra important and extra special.
There were so many players, outstanding Hall of Famers that played with the Expos. I mean, Pedro Martinez, the big unit, it's unbelievable. Randy Johnson, we need another Jerry Snyder. Really, is that what we need to get something going in Montreal again and rebuild that little, whether it be the National League, American League, Blue Jays, Expos rivalry. It's so sad. You remember the coaches as well, too. Greg Hamilton, synonymous with the national team for so many years.
Well, Greg Hamilton's basically led the junior and national team since the mid-'90s. So he's at 30 years into that, running the programs. They've won gold medals at the Pan Am Games. They've attended the Olympics. World Baseball Classics. He's got, the best Rolodex for baseball in Canada for anyone. And he's got the relations. And it's just finally time to honor Greg. I mean, he's done so much in the last 30 years. He easily could have been in a couple of years ago, but this was his year, and he's so well deserving. And he'll be, there's so many players and people coming back to see Greg. You think Jose is the popular one, but a lot of people who played for Greg, that didn't necessarily make it far in pro baseball or anything, but Greg tutored them, and they want to come back and help honor Greg when he's here that day.
And you just said it there. Tutor was a word that I think of when I think of like a Greg Hamilton who had that baseball experience, and as a manager and as a coach, and not only you just touching, the end effect, or at least the team, like you have these relationships that you've been built with players of years after years after years. So hopefully he gets a wonderful crowd to come out there and support him. That call must have been a lot of fun too.
It was. I mean, again, Greg is such a shy person, I'll say. He doesn't, he just says like, why me, sort of thing, right? Why do I deserve this? And that's the type of person he is, because he doesn't want to be in front of the stage. He doesn't want to be on stage. He doesn't need to be, but he definitely needs this recognition that he's done for all of baseball in Canada.
Let's go to the couple players that you have on the list. And Eric Bedard was as slick as they get. Pitched for a number of teams in Major League Baseball. And he had a couple of years where he was ranked in the top 5 as maybe among some of the best in all of baseball for a couple of years.
He was. I mean, he had some injuries going on, but basically he was a great lefty with mostly Baltimore and Seattle, and pitched with Pittsburgh a little bit. And he was on track. He had 200 strikeouts, 1 inning. He threw, a lot of innings when he was healthy. His ERA was great. He was in a huge trade right in his prime when he went over to Seattle. He's basically the top left-handed pitcher in the history of Canadian baseball. He ranks number 1 in innings pitched, strikeouts, games started for a left-handed pitcher. So he's right up there at the top of the list, and so well-deserving.
Never pitched for the Blue Jays, though. It's unbelievable how they couldn't have crafted that. I mean, that would have been just lockstep, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and he's right from Ottawa, too, so it would have been nice and close.
Speaking of Blue Jays, and with all due respect to the other 5, I mean, I think you don't even need to talk about this. The place is going to be packed for Joey Bats.
It is. I mean, José Bautista, all-time Blue Jay, all-time top 5 in every category you could think of offensively. Won the home run title, all-star, silver slugger. You can keep going and going. The bat flip, we all know where we were, and it was already 10 years ago, believe it or not. But in 2015, when he hit the bat flip in October, I was at the stadium, which is pretty cool, and there were a lot of people that were there. Obviously, it was a packed house. But yeah, José Bautista, he's so well deserving. He just, like he says, not much you can say. Everyone knows José Bautista. He's coming. He's going to be great. He's bringing his family, which would be fantastic. And we can't wait to get him on stage and have Fergie Jenkins put his coat on him, so and hand him his plaque, and that makes him an official Hall of Famer once Fergie does that.
I think what is so special about José Bautista when I think about him, and because he was a little close with the media for a lot of his career, but at the end of his career, upon retirement, coming back to Toronto, you realize how important Canada was to him. And I think that's one of the wonderful parts, and why I'm so happy that he's being honored by the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum.
It is. He comes back a lot. He does things for the Blue Jays still. He comes up and plays in golf tournaments and their alumni tournament or Joe Carter's tournament, again, just to give back to different charities in the province. And, he was here for the level of excellence. The Jays honored him. He brought his family. He's coming here this year. I know he's going to be up doing a few other things this summer as well in Toronto. So, yeah, he definitely back here a lot. He lives down in the States and Dominican now, but he's definitely back up here in Canada quite a bit. And he loves the city. Again, he played a decade here, so he really got to know the city and got to know the fans and the country.
You have a favorite memory?
Of Jose or of everything?
Yeah, of Jose.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the bat flip. I mean, I was lucky to be at the stadium, and the stadium was shaking, like it was, and the excitement, and you just didn't know. It was a terrible, weird inning with the Russell Martin hitting the bat knob of Sin Chu, and then the 3 errors that inning. Like Bautista shouldn't even got to bat. So there were 3 errors that inning, and then boom, crushed the ball, and you can see from the picture there, he flipped that bat 30 feet in the air. It's an iconic picture. He's got the bat, I know, and he's keeping it proudly at his house to so keep safe. And but it was a one of a kind day.
It really was. And imagine that ESPN made a 1-hour feature about one game and one inning of that game against Texas.
Yeah, well, it was one of a lifetime. I've watched baseball for a long, long time, and I've never seen what happened at the top of the seventh. The bottom of the seventh is 3 errors in the same inning, and then obviously the home run. I mean, you'll never see that again. That's what makes baseball so special and memorable. Every night you don't know what you're going to see, and that's what I love about the game.
A reminder on what day that everyone needs to flood St. Mary's, Ontario.
Saturday, June 7th. The ceremony's at 1 p.m. that day. But come all day, there's museums open, there's ball games on the field, there's barbecue, there's drinks, there's a silent auction, and there's an autograph session after the ceremony. So it's a long day. It's a full day. Get here early and say Saturday, June 7th is the big day.
Why don't you make a whole weekend of it, folks? I think it's certainly something to do. And just to go back, the opening pitch as well, too. That's an important a party to be at as well.
That's right. That's on the Thursday, the June 5th. And actually, we have a golf tournament on June 6th. The golf tournament is sold out, but the banquets on the Friday night is not sold out. So if you're interested in coming to hear some stories and eat some delicious food on the Friday night, check our website out. And then, of course, June 7th is the day to be here.
He is the Director of Operations for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Scott Crawford, thank you so much for sharing some time, giving us a little preview of what's going to be an outstanding weekend for baseball fans with the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. Appreciate your time.
Perfect. Let's chat anytime. We love baseball.
Right on. Folks, that's your Sportsline Podcast for the day. And you've just seen and heard, we do love talking baseball. And if you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline Podcast, you want to hear from you. Please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. If you have something to say, we always do appreciate your comments. It makes us better, folks. For the outstanding people that make the Sportsline Podcast possible. Thank you so very much. We'll see you tomorrow.